This video is brought to you by Squarespace. When it comes to websites, online stores, etc., there's no place to build a beautiful online presence like Squarespace. If you guys know me, you know I love me some Robert Eggers. Only 3 features deep, and he's already established himself as one of the best horror filmmakers and one of the most unique filmmakers, period. Which makes it really fun to talk about what his best movie is so far. Because let's be honest, they're all kind of the same at the end of the day, but a Lighthouse enjoyer wouldn't be caught dead in the same room as a Witch enjoyer. He's had a really great run of films the last few years, and I want to figure out which is his best. So let's just do that. Break it down into a few categories like scare, story, aesthetic, and sustainability, and figure this shit out already. Let's be real, all these movies are pretty messed up. But it's interesting because I feel like the only one that feels like a straight up horror movie is The Witch, and even that feels kind of out there. I guess we can immediately take The Northman out of conversation here, as that is more of a bloody revenge movie that is undeniably intense, but isn't necessarily a horror movie. The Lighthouse, though, that's up there. Eggers creates such a loud and angry movie with just 2 dudes in one location, making the claustrophobia they feel just that much more visceral to the viewer. Those fantastical elements are blended in so seamlessly that you lose yourself in the movie, and then all of a sudden there's this mermaid screaming to a point where it makes your ears bleed, and she's looking you in the eye, and you're like, oh man, I should marry her. If you walk away from this movie going, it was fine, I genuinely do not believe you. Also, Willem Dafoe, look at that face. All that said, The Witch is pretty damn scary. The Witch also plays with the fear of isolation, both physically and emotionally, as a close family begins to turn on each other. And yeah, they turn on each other in the Lighthouse, but The Witch takes your expectations of what's gonna happen to them and throws them out the damn window, making every death just so violent and horrifying in their own unique ways. That one scene, like 15 minutes in, is one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. So, not too much to say here, it's not very difficult. This one obviously goes to The Witch. If Willem Dafoe was in The Witch, I may have shit my pants when I watched it. I love Robert Eggers' stories. I'm a simple guy. I like simple stories. He makes pretty simple stories, at least on the surface. Something like The Lighthouse is probably his simplest. I mean, it is literally just 2 guys slowly losing their minds. Or is it 1 guy? Have there ever been any guys? See, The Lighthouse is so compelling because despite its simple premise, it is undeniably dense with themes of masculinity and existentialism, which makes it a really great movie, but maybe not the best story here. The Witch, also a very good story. Also very simple, and is honestly kind of a slasher movie depending on how you look at it. I think The Witch's storytelling succeeds the most in its character development. Every member of the family feels so unique. For example, Dad has a deep voice, the mother does not. If I were to change anything about The Witch's storytelling, I would just say it should have a little bit more to it. I feel like it gets in and out pretty fast, where I kind of want to know more about this family, you know? But let's stop beating around the bush. The Northman, ugh, man, I love this movie so much, and a lot of that comes from the story. I love a good revenge plot, and this is the perfect example of one. It does a great job blending the real, tangible motivations of our protagonist's actions, but also has all these spiritual motivations that are just as valid. And that's just our main guy. Everyone else is equally well developed, making the story so rich and exciting. It is his longest movie, but the thing is, I could have watched this for like 4 hours. That's how much there is here. It's the perfect story for this tone, and it gives Eggers so much room to show off his research abilities. And without spoiling it, I thought the ending of this movie was perfect and wouldn't change a damn thing. It was both exactly what I wanted to happen, but also nothing I was expecting, which honestly is why you go to the movies. Easy win. If you don't like his movies, that's fine. I get it. Not your thing. But you can't deny just how good he is at creating a vivid atmosphere and aesthetic. I mean, there's a really great interview with Eggers from a few weeks ago that goes in depth with how he researches for his movies and just how taxing it is. He seems like a very intense person when it comes to historical accuracy and getting the atmosphere right, which makes for some pretty incredible movies. If some of you remember, the first time I watched The Witch, I couldn't really get into it. And that was honestly purely based on the aesthetic. It's not that I don't like this kind of aesthetic. I get why he went cold with it. It's colored that way for a reason, and it's undeniably well shot for most of the movie, but there was something about it that was just a little too bland for me, which is fine. That's these characters' environments, but I need more, you know? It never fully gripped me or lost me in its world. I was always like, this is a horror movie that takes place in this time. I never got fully immersed. And I don't know if he heard me, but he definitely delivered the next time. The Lighthouse, How do you do this? This is what committing to the bit looks like. I love this movie and its atmosphere so much. I bought the mostly ambient score on vinyl. No, I cannot differentiate any of these songs. The movie's atmosphere is so strong. The sound of it blew out the speakers at both the Cannes screening I went to and briefly at the TIFF screening I went to. Do you know how crazy that is? Everything from the black and white cinematography to the aspect ratio to the awful weather to the eerie soundscape, the loud, over-the-top performances. You can literally smell this movie. Even scenes shot during the day seem really dark and not okay. It all works really well together, and there's not a single moment in its entire runtime that isn't committed to the aesthetic, which is immersive and impressive as is, and seeing this in a theater, you really forget where you're at when you're watching it. Now, The Northman, from a historical accuracy perspective, is without a doubt his best. I mean, he's working with his largest scope yet, which obviously means more crazy shit. That's not a problem. But at that size, it also means he has to kind of tone it down maybe, just a little bit. All that said, it's still probably got the coolest aesthetic of any movie I'll see this year. I just still have to give it to The Lighthouse. I promise I didn't plan to have this work out this perfectly, but with each movie winning at least one category, we've now reached the final, deciding category. Which of these movies will age the best? Which is an all-timer, the kind of movie that we're going to be talking about for a while. The Witch is one of the best horror movies of its decade. You gotta remember, The Witch was something pretty rare for its time. To drop a horror movie in 2015 with that kind of isolated violin score that you'll come to hear in every A24 horror movie, with an ending like that, with scares that aren't so much in your face as they are in your brain, that was a rarity, and it surely made a splash. People are still talking about it. It's regarded, again, as one of the best horror movies of the decade, but there are people out there that think Eggers peaked with this. But in my opinion, this is a debut, and it's very clearly a debut. The story is great, the characters are fascinating, the film is scary as hell, but Eggers has done much better in my opinion. His characters have gotten more fleshed out, his style has gotten a lot stronger. Yes, The Witch to a lot of people will go down as one of their favorite horror movies of all time. I think it's undeniably great, but it's not these other movies, right? The Lighthouse is interesting to look at in this category. It's like a 2049 or Dunkirk or Baby Driver kind of movie, you know, where people will remember it for its technical achievements and the production aspect of it. Like every 3 months there's going to be a new video essay on the cinematography. And I mean, it's a masterpiece, no doubt. It deserves all those video essays that are saying the same thing. And sorry for how small-minded this is about to sound, but I can't see how you could disagree about that. These frames are stunning. The lighting is breathtaking. The locations and the production design are also so beautiful. But then there's the story, which is also just so gripping. I'm not going to be that guy and compare the isolation that's happening in this movie to the pandemic and be like, we were all two guys in a lighthouse last year. But I do think it's one of those stories so simple yet so specific that it allows for people to project so much of their own experience onto it. And it's such a fun and catchy premise that'll keep people connecting to it for who knows how long. I also just want to say it's very easy to call this like a ripoff of Bergman or something with its style and compositions, and nothing more than that. And while sure, it pulls tons of inspiration from older art house cinema, it also feels extremely contemporary. This is just a great example of the kinds of psychological horror movies that are finding success these days. It's kind of the most extreme example of that next to Hereditary. It was a moment. The Northman, like I've been saying, is his biggest yet and has the best possibility of appealing to a wide audience, which is hilarious considering how bloody and intense this movie still is. I kind of regret recommending it to my mom. I think the story is gripping. It's probably the most historically accurate Viking movie ever made, and that's probably what it'll be remembered for. While gripping and really exciting, I mean, I love this style. I wouldn't say it's pushing any boundaries. It's just a really great revenge story with a really cool style, because stylistically, we've seen Eggers go crazier before this. What is kind of interesting about The Northman is just how rare a movie like this is. They really gave that man, the guy that did The Witch and The Lighthouse, $90 million, and sure, you could say his vision was probably a little compromised as a result, but damn, that is so cool. I can't exactly say that The Northman will be remembered for much more than that though, especially for me personally. I loved it a lot, but it didn't like seep into my brain the way one of these did. I could be wrong though. Maybe this video will age like shit, but I think for now, I gotta go with The Lighthouse. Clearly, I'm just a big fan of this man and his movies, and you shouldn't take this vid too seriously, because they're all pretty great. Robert Eggers is one of the few filmmakers who really deserves that visionary title in the trailers, because damn it, he is! So thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, go watch these movies and form your own opinion. But But before you do, I want to thank this week's sponsor, Squarespace. Now, Squarespace, if you didn't already know, is a place where you can go online to build your brand, whether that be an online store, a blog, a portfolio, you name it. They have professional portfolio designs where you can create galleries for your work, as well as password-protected pages for clients. As someone working in film and video, I am a big fan of their video block feature, which allows me to showcase some of my favorite videos and films in a way that looks really nice. And they have a built-in mobile web designer, which makes it so that your site will look great no matter what platform it's on, while still matching your style. The best part about it all, though, is that if you go to squarespace.com/Karsten, you can get 10% off of your first purchase. So lads, seriously, no reason not to give it a chance at this point. So thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Thanks for watching this video, and I'm gonna get out of here now.